Greetings, life forms, wherever you're receiving us. This is Justin.
And Matt.
And I'm the newest Disney princess. My name is Landon Doan.
Oh, congratulate. I love the fact that we're adding to the lineup, and I think that, I'm going to love to see you right up there next to Cinderella and Snow White. And are you going to have, like, your own castle in a park somewhere?
Well, I mean, we're still early on in the negotiations, but due to my height, I'm not going to be anywhere near the heavy players like Cinderella. I'm more of a Belle from Beauty and the Beast type guy, but I mean, I'm not sliding Belle in the slightest. So I do want to put that out there. Very happy to be a part of the Disney Princess lineup. We have a lot of new members on this roster. So
yeah, we do.
A lot of new faces to become familiar with.
We definitely do. It is Tuesday. No, it's not Tuesday. It's Thursday. Guys, we're going back in time. No, it is Thursday, February the 1st, and this is episode 75. And I said that like it was a relief because, man, it's been a long time since we've done an official episode, and it feels good.
Has been a hot minute.
Yeah.
75.
Episode sloppy 75. We're going to get sloppy today. And we're going to start it off with some drinks. So let's go around the table and see what everybody is going to be quenching their thirst with tonight. And it is late. This is a nighttime recording. This is Nerd News Cafe After Hours. So I'm expecting some adult beverages. So, Matt, what have you got over there?
Cup of water. No, just kidding.
Disappointment. Giant cup of disappointment.
A cup of disappointment. A lot of regret. No, I've got a Kona Brewing Company Longboard Island Lager.
Oh, nice. You got
there
so it's
you
like a coffee lager. Is it pretty good?
It's not coffee.
It sounds Kona I associate with coffee, so I just made that assumption.
It's just an island thing, but I will say their bottle's really cool. It's got like Hawaiian Islands into the glass.
Oh.
It says Liquid Aloha, and that's what I'm all about. It's kicking the feet up on the sand. Not really. I just thought that sounded cool.
Well, is it a tropical vacation in your mouth?
It tastes like a red ale, and I don't know how I'm supposed to associate that. So
I'd honestly be okay if that was my vacation, just nothing but drinking red ale. But then again, some might say I have a drinking problem. But whatever.
It's only a problem it affects others, and I don't seem to be affected, so you're good.
All right, Landon, what have you got?
Well, speaking of my non-existent drinking problem, I'm drinking gin and LaCroix berry.
Hey, so that's classy.
It tastes like regret and gasoline. So, bottoms up. Here we go.
I don't know if I told you guys this, but I
saw... Oh, that is terrible.
I saw the funniest tweet about LaCroix the other day. Did I mention this on the last episode?
Don't believe so.
Okay, so I saw this tweet regarding LaCroix, and I think it's just too accurate, and I would love to give credit to whoever said it, but I can't remember. But they said, when you drink LaCroix, it's like drinking carbonated water while someone screams the flavor of a fruit from the next room.
Yes, 1,000%. I had never had a LaCroix before I, for some reason, bought a six-pack because my girlfriend's trying to give up sodas and she likes all these sparkling water things. I found out after the fact she's not a fan of LaCroix, so my dumbass has a six-pack to drink. I crack it open. It's like, oh, I think I got a whiff of berry. This is going to be okay. Yeah. I pour it, take a sip. Oh, God, what happened? Where did that berry go?
It's a suggestion of berry. I think it's all mental because the can is all colorful and they tell you it's berry. So when you taste it, you're like, I think berry? I don't know. But
it really might be psychosomatic.
But I will tell you that it's one of those things that you become like prison okay with it if it's the only thing you have to drink because... Basically, what happened was...
Are you trying to compare LaCroix to freaking toilet hooch?
Yeah, essentially. Because
having never drank toilet hooch, I feel that Jay is pretty on the point here.
Okay, so speaking from experience about toilet hooch...
Toilet hooch of sparkling water.
We were in a situation where with our Costco membership, of course, we buy everything in bulk and it lasts for years. So we had an overabundance of LaCroix, and this was a couple of years ago. So I can tell you that when it's all you've got in the refrigerator and you really want something other than just a cup of cold water, eventually you're like, this lime flavor is actually pretty good. I will tell you, don't drink the coconut. It's disgusting. But the rest,
coconut to begin with is disgusting.
Yeah, so. The rest are pretty good, though. But anyway, that's fine.
So so far you've said it's, toilet hooch, and you get Stockholm syndrome
Yeah.
from drinking.
You do. You eventually accept it, and now it gets to the point where I'm like, I hope we got some LaCroix out there in the refrigerator. I'd love to have one.
God.
Oh, God.
God.
He goes, oh God, he goes back to the killer.
It is like that. It is an abusive relationship that I can't get out of. But at least it's not,
Got you chained up like Cleveland.
at least it's not adding the calories to my daily
Yeah,
journal.
that is true, and it's like sugar free and carbonated. I don't know all the stupid bullcrap talking points. All I know is it tastes like an idea. So
There you go.
There you go. Put alcohol in it and have fun.
So
Maybe
I
do have a drinking problem. No.
well, I've gone with an old favorite. This was one of my, I would call it, we're all about gateway drinks tonight. This was actually a gateway beer for me back in the day. It was one of my first adult beverages in the
Mad
beer
Dog.
Zima.
in the beer category that I really, really liked, and it kind of opened me up to a darker version of beers. It is not Zima, and it's not Southpaw, which actually was my first beer ever.
PBR.
Whew. That was your first beer. I'm glad you came back and
Yeah, I know.
gave it a second shot.
It almost
Yeah, mine
ruined
was
me.
Ice House.
Oh, that was just as bad.
Whew.
But this is a Michelob Amberbach Dark Lager.
Oh, Amber Bach.
Okay.
I like that one.
Yeah.
Okay,
So-
that's all right.
I can already tell you I enjoy it. There were many a nights playing World of Warcraft with a 6-pack of Amberbach. So this is kind of nostalgic for me right here.
Hey, well, speaking of World of Warcraft, I've recently got addicted again, and myself and LaCroix and Jen have spent many a nights in Azeroth.
See, now you're going to associate World of Warcraft and LaCroix.
No,
So
I just need to get my ass through this entire 6-pack or throw it away, one or the other.
don't go berry next time. Go lime. If you ever go back to the well, go lime.
Yeah, that's a big if at this point.
Yeah, I understand. So I did want to mention, guys, we're leading into weekend. So
No. It's the big game. I do not
Oh,
want to get
sorry.
sued by the NFL again.
I'll bleep that out. It's the big game weekend, and last year we did a Madden prediction for the game, and I think it was accurate. I don't think that we've done that this year. Or no, we read an article. That's what it was. You did Madden. You simulated the season, and that was inaccurate.
Yes. Though, to be fair, our projections had me breaking the NFL rushing record by about 1,500 yards. Matt was a 1,400-yard receiver for the Chicago Bears, and Jay got like 2 interceptions.
I intercepted a couple balls. Yeah,
Exactly.
for the Cincinnati Bengals. Yeah, so those things didn't happen. But last year we referred to it.
Dude, let me tell you, I really thought during training camp, if I didn't pull my hammy, I had a shot at it this year.
Yeah. I always,
Maybe
every year I declare myself eligible for the draft, but I'm still on the board, so we'll see.
The NFL's really missing out.
I know. I'm going to get a call from the XFL. You watch.
Yeah, hey, it's
Oh,
back.
man.
I can't. Jesus Christ, this is truly the darkest timeline. But hey, I mean, what NFL team can say no to your 11.8 40 time? I mean, that right there is speed.
Oh, I've shaved a couple points off of that. I'm more like 11.5 these days.
Oh, look out!
So no, I wanted to just mention last year we did refer to an article that predicted the score of the big game, and it actually predicted a comeback by the Patriots. You remember that? And it did happen.
That's kind of
it did
nuts.
happen.
If you want me to, while we're recording this, I can simulate the big game on this year's Madden and let you know.
Oh, that's
how
perfect.
It plays out
Okay.
at the end of the episode.
That's perfect. All right, you guys have to stick around, and then for the exciting conclusion, and we'll give you. Then you can place all the money on the winner of this simulation. Please do
You know
that.
what we call that in the business? A tease.
There you go. Okay, so we'll come back to it. So Landon, I want you to multitask because while you're getting that set up, I feel like I deserve, or you deserve all the credit for this meeting of the nerds tonight because we were talking about getting back into the regular schedule next week, but then you said I want to talk about something and I don't think it can wait. And Matt said, I second that. And so here we are. So today I'm throwing the reins over to you and you are going to take us to the promised land, my friend. Just like
All right.
just like you did for the Titans.
Yes, almost. There's always next year, if I'm going to quote the Chicago Cubs. I do hope our podcasting insurance is paid up because I apologize in advance if I drive this son of a into the ditch. Yeah, you were talking. We're getting back in the swing of things, but this is something that we've kind of been sitting on for almost a month at this point, because we did kind of take some time off at the end of the year because, we do have lives and families and stuff like that we somewhat kind of like and want to spend time with. So we stepped away from the podcast, and while we were gone, we made reference to it, I guess the episode before we took off for the end of the year, that we were on the verge of Disney buying out 20th Century Fox, and over the Christmas break it happened. And we could have, waited and talked about it next week, but it's like, this has been something that I've been sitting on and thinking since the deal went down. And I know I'm not the only one. And Matt, like you said, jumped in almost immediately into the conversation, wanted to get in on it. So that's what I wanted to talk about, because I think right now a lot of people are looking at it in the short term, in the, the X-Men and the Fantastic Four and Doctor Doom and Galactus, they now get to come over to the Marvel Cinematic Universe. But there's a whole lot else that's being impacted by Disney dropping $5 billion to 20th Century Fox, buying everything.
Times 10. 52 billion.
52.4.
Jesus Christ. So with that $52.4 billion, they bought everything associated with Fox except their sports and their news. Everything past that is Fox branded is now owned by the House of the Mouse.
Yeah, or will be once everything passes, antitrust review and all that. But there's not a lot of things that are going to stand in the way of this, because it's not going to create an outright monopoly. Although, I mean, we're getting pretty darn close, and I think Disney feels like they are kind of moving the little doggy around the board at this point, and they're like, I can't wait to get back around to Park Place, because, man, we're going to cash in, and we are going to own the entertainment world. House of Mouse all over this place.
Seriously, I mean, like you talk about antitrust. If it wasn't for antitrust laws, I feel like that the Fox broadcast network would have been included in this deal. But their regulations, you can only own one broadcast channel. They already have ABC, but at the same time, they now own a lot of the most popular television shows on the Fox network, and not just the Fox network, Fox, FX, FXX, and as well.
Yeah, It's a huge deal, a huge package. I noticed that's what she said.
The Office, not owned by Disney. Yet.
I couldn't let that go. But National Geographic is part of it too. And it's not just 20th Century Fox. It's Fox Searchlight as well. So there's a lot of things that go along with it. And I think what it's done is it's generating a lot of uncertainty. And people, one of the first things you heard, like you heard a cry. It was like 1,000 voices cried out, and they were suddenly silenced when this was announced, because people were like, "What's going to happen to Deadpool?" I mean, I think that was one of the first things that I heard. So, and I know we're gonna get into all of this stuff, but I want to be one of the people that's on the side of, I'm really excited. I can't wait to see what the ripple effects of this are, because I think there's a lot of benefits to it. Granted, there are going to be some negative things that come out of it. I think we all suffer when the market has fewer competitors. But at the same time, I do trust Disney. I trust the things that they do. I think you can look from history, that recent history, to see what they've done with properties like Star Wars and Marvel, and you can say those things are in good hands. And with that being the case, I'm ready for this. Cue the music.
That's it. That's the end of the episode. All right. Well, thanks for listening. Be sure to download, subscribe. No, I agree with what you say. Like, in the immediate, I do think there's going to be a lot of really good things, and there is a lot of uncertainty. But at the same time, it's like, I'm afraid there's a little bit of sky is falling mentality going on. And it's not necessarily a bad thing, because like you said, when we do have fewer and fewer people competing against each other, eventually it's just going to get into 1 to 2 corporations deciding A, what we like, and B, what we're going to buy. Which, I mean, like, with Disney bringing in franchises like, Die Hard, Aliens, Predator, Home Alone, and oh, by the way, all the Marvel movies that they've been, lusting after for years. I mean, like, that right there, taking Fox off the board and moving all their assets under the Disney umbrella, I mean, like, that takes away a big player in the game.
Yeah. I think, one of my first reactions, speaking as a theme park nerd, is when I hear this, I get super excited, because I have always been a little bit irritated at the fact that Disney owns this company, this huge company, Marvel, that has access to all these fun characters and all these fun properties. And being on the East Coast and Disney World being the park that's closest to us, we don't get to really experience a lot of that because already there's an ownership stake that exists when it relates to theme parks on properties like X-Men, Fantastic Four, and those sorts of things. And that's at Universal.
I mean, Islands of Adventure, that's one of their pillars, is that whole Marvel island or whatever. I mean, the Hulk is an attraction roller coaster, and that is a Disney roller coaster now.
Yeah. But essentially, until this merger happened or this acquisition, they call it both because actually they're purchasing. From what I hear, it's a stock purchase, and they're actually going to retain some Fox leadership. So I
think that would be smart.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see how that goes. But anyway, until this event happened, you've got an ironclad contract that basically says these characters that are in use at the Universal Studios are off limits to all theme parks east of the Mississippi. And so we for forever. I think it was like into the 2030 maybe. It's a long way from now. And
wow.
Yeah, and so that being the case, I just never really had a lot of hope that was ever going to change. And, of course, granted, if I want to go experience those characters and those rides, I can always go over to Universal, but it would be awesome if I could have everything in one place. And plus, knowing I've nerded out plenty of times about the way Disney does its theme parks is just another level of immersion, another level of theming, and I love to see what they can do when they get their hands on really cool properties. So now I feel like they've got another little bargaining chip here. So this is something that kind of got the gears in my head turning, and I'm like, oh, okay, does this start to open the door to those negotiations? Does Disney have more leverage now that they can go to Universal and say, hey, remember how we said we were okay with you having all those characters until forever? Yeah, maybe we're not so okay with that anymore. And so maybe we start to see some of that change. And I for one would be super thrilled with that. But also from the aspect of, I think Universal would counterpunch. They're already bringing in Mario Land at the Universal parks, and they've done a great job.
Harry Potter World.
With Harry Potter as well. Right. They did something that they've never done, and they created a fully immersive environment that now Disney's trying to recreate with things like the Avatar Land. So they would.
By the way, Avatar is now a Disney property.
Yeah, fully Disney too. Right. So all those sequels. Yeah.
And how many times on this podcast have we been like, what sense does it make for Disney to dedicate an entire part of one of their parks to a property they don't even own? Like James Cameron could just get really pissed at Disney and be like, nope, we're not doing this anymore past whatever contracts we have signed. So part of me wants to ask, how long has this deal been kind of percolating in the background?
It's a good question. And I don't know. I mean, I think you talked about it before we got into the show about how it kind of feels like Disney's come to the negotiation table before with some of these things and been turned away. And, when you're one of the biggest players, one of the heaviest hitters in the game, and you don't get the answer you're looking for, what do you do next? Okay, well, what if we just buy your company?
Mm-hmm. Like you made reference to it. I said I felt like this all started back when Disney wanted to get the rights back to the Fantastic Four and everybody associated with that a few years ago when those contracts were up and excuse me, Fox just said no, we refuse to let the Fantastic Four go. So Disney's like, okay, you say no, we're gonna go talk to your boss and cut a deal. And oh, by the way, we now own your ass.
They didn't. They don't have to take no for an answer if they buy you.
Exactly. And when you're one of the biggest corporations in the world, you don't like being told no. And when you are told no, you just change the rules of the game. But before we move on from the amusement park thing, I want to jump on that too, because it's I do like what Universal's doing with all the Marvel properties, and now we'll have to see what they do with The Simpsons, because that's now a Disney property as well. And it is cool that you can go check out these Marvel heroes and ride the Spider-Man ride and the Incredible Hulk roller coaster and stuff like that at Universal. But at the same time, it's the way the Islands of Adventure are right now, they're frozen in time. They can't update anything. They can't add a new character. Who would have thought like 20 years ago that Rocket Raccoon would be one of the biggest characters in the world? You would have thought that Universal would have loved to have the Guardians of the Galaxy, at least standing out in front of the Hulk roller coaster to take pictures with people.
Absolutely.
Well, nope, you can't do that because that's a Disney property. So eventually you do have to wonder if Universal's going to be like, yeah, we have these Marvel rides, but is it really worth the hassle to maintain these rides and to update them? Because I mean, like, I made reference to the Spider-Man ride earlier. I was going to say recently, I think it's been about like 5 to 10-ish years at this point. They've updated the ride to, make it in HD. That said, that's still kind of a jarring ride to look at with the 3D technology in 2016 when I last wrote it. So, I mean, like, you do have to wonder if Universal's eventually just going to get to a point where we'll be like, yeah, I mean, we could in perpetuity continue to have this stuff. But I mean, it just feels dated and like nobody wants to do it. I mean, like even in Islands of Adventure, there's the whole, Dagwood world. And, you can go check out Kathy comic strips and hang out with Dudley Do-Right. Who the hell does that? Like, does that move the needle for anybody? No, it doesn't. And like, I'm kind of wondering, is Universal going to get to the point where it's like, this just isn't worth the hassle because we're not bringing anybody into these rides anymore?
Yeah, it's interesting. So years ago, Kings Island was sponsored by Paramount. And so if you went to the Kings Island theme park, a lot of their rides were themed after movies like The Italian Job, Tomb Raider, Face Off.
Didn't they have a Top Gun ride for a while?
There was a Top Gun ride.
Mm-hmm.
Right. So it was very strange. Like as soon as Paramount pulled their sponsorship, all of the rides had to change to generic names. So now Top Gun is called The Bat. The Italian Job is called the Backlot Stunt Coaster. And Face Off is now in Vertigo. So they had to make all these changes and just give them kind of a generic overlay. And it was very bizarre going in there when they did that because it was such like an abrupt change. And I wonder if something like that will happen at Universal at some point. They'll just, like you said, maybe they flip a switch and they say, all right, we're just going to, fine. Disney, here you go. I'm sure there'll be money involved in this whole situation.
Oh, of course, yeah. Universal, even if the Marvel brand, their Marvel brand at least, is diminished, they're not going to give it up for free.
Yeah. So they get their nice chunk of change, and then they go with some spray paint, and then they change Hulk to like a big angry purple monster
to Gamma Guy.
Something like that. Matt, you've been quiet so far. What are your initial thoughts when you heard about the news?
Well, I was kind of, while you guys were talking about theme parks and stuff like that, I tried to grab another, part of this and see exactly the characters they're acquiring. So it took me a minute to find, I know we've all seen this graphic where he has the circles and the characters in the circles and, how they overlap and who owns what. And
they're called Venn diagrams.
Yeah.
I don't give a crap the scientific name. I drink a beer. I don't care at this point.
He drank a whole beer. Everybody look out. This guy.
I'm an adult. I can do what I want. So I'm trying to find these Venn diagrams do they really qualify as a Venn diagram? This is pretty cartoony.
Well, I mean, we are talking about like, Wolverine and Deadpool and Mickey Mouse. So
sure.
So I'd be okay with it being cartoony right now.
Okay. So I went back and tried to find like one of the original ones where everybody's like, what does Fox own? Where we were trying to find out what movies we weren't going to get or the subpar quality of movies we were going to get. And so Fox, I didn't realize Universal Pictures owned not a whole lot, but enough to make an impact, because they do own Hulk. They do own She-Hulk, Namor, Betty Ross, General Ross, Abomination, and then the Leader. That's pretty much their
weird.
Their stock.
That's a weird combination.
So they pretty much own all the Hulk stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. They went, to the Walmart and bought one out of the box. So you go over to Fox, and I mean, they own quite a bit. You've got Super Skrull, you've got, all the X-Men, and
Mm-hmm.
when we talk X-Men, people think Wolverine and stuff like that, but you're talking Magneto,
Right.
You're talking, like Sabretooth. You're talking all the villains that are associated. Apocalypse, and like you said, Galactus, that brings Silver Surfer over.
Doctor Doom.
Yeah,
Doctor
Fantastic Four.
Doctor Doom is a personal want for me for something to be done with him. But
Yeah, no kidding.
and we get Colossus brought over, which I'm not saying the Deadpool Colossus was the greatest, but at least it was Colossus.
It was the best big screen version of Colossus we've gotten. I mean, the only other one was in X2, that was pretty cool, but they didn't give him a personality.
Right. And we get stuff like, Storm over in this and Gambit, which has been put on hold,
Shocking.
So, shocking there.
Do you think that movie just straight up gets canceled at this point?
I think it will.
I really feel like it's gonna.
I think it will.
I obviously don't care. Because, I felt like it's a misstep with what they were doing anyway, and I'm like, just stop what you're doing. You're not doing anything. But on this diagram, what really throws me off is the whole Ghost Rider, which I thought was under the Marvel flag or under the Fox flag that's coming over. So I don't know if they're going to fix that one or not. I know it was in Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., so I don't know. I guess it's been, don't even get me started on that crap. But really what I'm getting at here is all these characters and stuff, they can now be put into the games with the Avengers. They can be put into the games, and as far as like that kind of media, not just movies, but your video games. I think it was the last one that just came out, Infinity.
Yeah.
Yeah, that one. No X-Men. Not
Right.
one.
Wolverine, who had been a staple in the Marvel vs. Capcom games, even back when it was just Marvel superheroes. I mean, Wolverine was a staple. He isn't there because guess what? He's an X-Men, and X-Men is a bad word.
Exactly. You can't even say mutant now, which they actually get to retain some English.
Oh, thank
in
God
this
they
series.
get mutant back. We can stop
Oh, my
pretending to
God.
care about the Inhumans.
And we can just straight flush them.
Like Black Bolt, you can hang out. Medusa, okay. Lockjaw, you're in. The rest of you, GTFO.
And here's the thing. We do pick on the Inhumans, me personally, a lot because it was just awful. It looked like B-movie trash. And I think that they could fix it. They could revamp it, but I don't want to see him as a front and foremost character. I don't care. They're not enough for me to care. So, but those people can be included in, the other side of things, not just the movies, but, the video games, I guess the comic series. You'll start to see Marvel actually start incorporating instead of giving, Fantastic Four the freaking cold shoulder or the death stare. Because I understand they weren't even promoting them.
The Fantastic Four straight up got canceled, and half of the Fantastic Four died / went to another dimension where the Human Torch and the Thing can hang out and still be in the Marvel Universe, but they're on, other teams. And I think the Human Torch was retconned into an Inhuman or something like that.
He was showing up.
Exactly.
Torch
So-
was showing up in the new Spider-Man, the Amazing Spider-Man series.
Well, Torch and Spidey have always been boys, so
Yeah.
I'm okay with them hanging out. But it's like the Fantastic Four is the first family of the Marvel Universe. Without the Fantastic Four, the Avengers don't exist. Without the Fantastic Four, the X-Men don't exist. Spider-Man doesn't exist. Without the Fantastic Four, Marvel isn't here. So, the fact that they, not only have the comics straight up canceled them because of the movies, that's just kind of aggravating. And hopefully this is a step in the right direction to at least rectify that.
Right. And you go back to these other, like I said, the impact of everything is kind of this ripple effect. And with Fox, if you step away from the whole superhero genre, I think we talked about pre-show, Home Alone has come to the mouse. Now they've got his grubby little, padded fingers on it.
Yippee-ki-yay, Die Hard's a Disney movie now.
Exactly. Die Hard's a Disney. And then I had always thought this. I always thought the museum movie, Mystery at the Museum was...
Not at the museum.
Sorry, not the Mystery. Good Lord. Not at the museum. I've only had one beer, guys, I swear.
That's the generic name.
That's its new name. That's the new name for it now. But no, not the museum. I always thought that was a Disney movie because of the way it looked and everything. And I guess that was Fox trying to do a Disney-type movie. But one of the ones I kind of went through here and looked for some oddball articles that maybe you guys wouldn't have touched on. Do you know Cocoon is now under the House of Mouse?
Wow.
Wait, seriously? Wow.
That is
I like
a Fox special. But you guys were talking about theme parks, and one of the ones I saw on this list it hit me. I was like, they are going to do something with this. I think personally, is they now own Independence Day.
Yeah. Yeah, that's
You know,
actually
I
fun.
mean, how cool of a ride would that be, regardless of how you felt about the sequel? You know, just you could be flying in the saucer, and you could get old Will Smith in here and throw him a couple mil and have him talk, or you know, stuff like that. I mean, that one I thought would be a good in the theme parks and such. And then the other one that really threw me for a loop was Ice Age. All the ice
Yeah,
that's right.
under the castle. So
yeah, that's right.
it's more than just superhero movies. You know, it's more than just, you know, that genre, and you know, the whole right on the nose. What you're seeing is what you're getting, you know, and what they control. And then, you know, the whole thing with it, stepping away from that, another ripple effect is the whole ESPN thing. And I was thinking video games. I know Fox doesn't own, you know, they own their sports and everything like that, but ESPN, with them owning a little bit more properties and stuff, I don't see why they wouldn't push ESPN into gaming. I mean, why not compete with the Mads? Why not compete with the NCAAs and stuff like that? You have the money and the power. You obviously have the coverage to talk to these players and get, you know, the same, I don't know, evaluations that maybe Madden's doing, and build your own games from there. And I'm not saying they're interested in that, but I'm saying it's there.
Well, I mean, them building their own games, I don't know how realistic that is, because, I mean, you have to remember a few years ago, ESPN had their own branding or franchise, whatever you want to call it, of a football game before EA and Madden came along and bought the exclusive rights to the NFL and the NFL Players Association and all that stuff. So ESPN got out of the game. And, I mean, yeah, they have all these aspects and properties they can use, but at the same time, developing a game, especially a AAA title that gamers are going to expect when you're throwing in, you know, Wolverine and Star-Lord and Spider-Man and Magneto and the Hulk all playing together, like, expectations are going to be high for that. So I just don't know how realistic that is.
I actually think there's a real chance that Disney, especially considering the fact that ESPN is an arm that's hemorrhaging money lately, I think that there's a real chance that Disney spins off ESPN, tries to sell it.
Oh, yeah, I would not be surprised if Disney is actively trying to sell ESPN while we record. And I want to jump on something Matt said, talking about, like, ESPN with the video games. I don't know if they're going to develop their own games themselves, but right now, online, one of the most popular things is the professional Overwatch League. If you could get some sort of partnership with Blizzard and have the exclusive television broadcast rights for the Overwatch League, that's going to bring in an audience that probably isn't watching ESPN to begin with, because I've seen articles since Overwatch League came out of, you know, non-traditional sports fans, aka gamers, saying, I think I finally get why people like sports because of the Overwatch League. So, I mean, like, I do know that some of the ESPN audience is going to be like, well, why the hell are they playing video games? Because I saw those comments whenever ESPN2 would air, like, you know, the Dota World Championships, or back in the day, they would show Magic the Gathering's, you know, World Championships, and be like, what the hell's this nerd crap doing on my sports channel? So, I mean, some parts of the audience are not going to like that, but at the same time, Jay, you made reference, ESPN is hemorrhaging money. It's losing so much money that it can't maintain the big name faces that made ESPN as prominent as it is. So they're having to find ways to slash budgets. And if they can bring in an audience that they don't have, that, you know, is already somewhat established and also growing, that seems like a pretty smart business move.
I mean, let me tell you this. You were, you know, talking about, we're trying to sell ESPN. One of the people that Disney has a main partnership with right now and is holding by the cojones, I think, is EA. Because that whole Battlefront 2 did not go well for them, in a sense, that at least what they thought they were going to do.
Yeah, it's underperformed. For sure.
Yes, it's underperformed.
So there's constant talk. I mean, I don't care what outlet you read for your geek news, always the same article is on there, and it's very easy to find on the front page. If maybe page 2 is, you know, EA could lose Star Wars license, or Star Wars license, is it in trouble? You know, it's always over their heads right now. Whether it's a truth or not, it's over their head in the media.
Yeah.
And Disney, especially here recently, has proven they're not scared or afraid to just pull licenses from
Absolutely.
developers that they have business with currently. I mean, look at Marvel Heroes Omega. I mean, like that was up on Xbox and PlayStation 4 for like
And I mean,
all of 5 months, and then it's going to go away in 90 days. 2 weeks later, by the way, it's gone.
Yeah, they did the tablecloth trick. They ripped that tablecloth out.
The flowers were not standing. It just seems to me that, I mean, yes, it's one license, and EA, you know, they've got numerous AAA titles, but at the same time, all it takes is one AAA title to freaking sink you. And if you don't believe me, look at some of the ones that have already been bought up to this point.
You don't have to look back past last year.
You don't have to go far.
Look at BioWare's Mass Effect Andromeda.
Exactly.
That was a AAA title that did not live up to expectations. Now the entirety of BioWare is hanging in the balance of Anthem.
They're in pieces. They're breaking them off for other games. I mean, they're dissecting BioWare to prop up other games, but at the same time, it's like you failed. Or, I mean, I don't know that it's a failure. You enjoyed the game. They just, for whatever reason, walked away from it. But, I mean, whatever it did, it didn't do for them. And they dissected them and pulled them apart. And for Disney to walk away, I mean, imagine how much money that would be for somebody to get a Star Wars license on any of these other makers. You know, if Treyarch or... I'm not saying they would. I'm just saying if somebody like that were to get that Star Wars license, what they could do with it.
Well, and it is interesting, especially with all the IPs now, especially that Disney owns. Disney doesn't really seem to be all that interested in the video game realm. Because, I mean, like, think about it. When you have the Marvel movies, like, straight up printing billions of dollars at the box office, we didn't get one movie tie-in game to any of those. Not one. And we grew up in an age where there were licensed games, every 3 weeks to 6 weeks. Now
you could almost spool a movie with them.
Oh. And a lot of those licensed games weren't good, but at the same time, it's just so shocking.
Every movie that came out had a license. Do you remember Lawnmower Man on Super Nintendo?
Yes, every movie, whether it needed a game or not, by God, it got one. And 80% of the time, LJN made it.
Well, like I said, I don't know that they would push their money that way. I just know they have certain controls over that now. You know, they have the power to giveth and taketh, obviously in the gaming world. And that can lead to not money for Disney, but putting people in basically business graves,
Or at least blackballing them. Yeah, for sure.
Absolutely. It's like, you're not doing what I need you to do, sorry, bye.
Like when we put up the poll question, I guess at this point a month ago, talking about how Regal was thinking about rolling out, varying movie prices. I think it was Andrew made the point that this could potentially lead to some writers and actors and directors possibly being blacklisted in the future. Now we live in a time where Disney owns so many of the top tier AAA like blockbuster franchises that they're going to be able to demand, we want the biggest screens. They're going to be able to demand, we want to have the longest time in the theaters. They're going to be able to, kind of call their own shots when it comes to distributing. It's like, oh, what? You're not going to play ball with us? Oh, well, I guess that means you're not going to get Solo a Han Solo story. What's up with that?
And they get to also probably dictate their ticket percentage as well. So... and that just makes it tough on the theaters. And
that leads into why this is a 12 to 18 month process.
Yeah.
Because this is all antitrust stuff, and that was some of what I was reading a minute ago. This is a huge merger, but it has to clear those hurdles. And I think was it Time Warner and
AOL?
Comcast? No, Time Warner and Comcast here recently. A deal was being done, and then there was a lot of antitrust stuff, and it just fell apart.
Mm-hmm. I don't remember that one, but
exactly, it never happened.
There you go. Yeah,
it started to happen, and I mean, people started raising Cain because for whatever reason, I heard Time Warner people are getting the same treatment that Comcast customers get, but they didn't want to watch Nazi Germany reunite, so they I don't care if anybody likes that or not. I'm saying it. But I've been under the Comcast flag, So, but anyway,
it is Comcastic.
Yeah, they are, buddy. They got their red flag and everything. So, I was looking at the antitrust stuff, and one of the things they mention is you had 6 major Hollywood producers for films.
Right, the big 6.
After this, now you have 5. And for them to squeeze their fist like that on theaters, when theaters already having a problem keeping it together, and I mean they're doing okay, some of them, but a lot of them are not. And for them to say, "This is what you're going to pay me. This is what it's going to be. This is how long you're going to run it," that's awful. That's as bad as Walmart's tactics in some cases.
I mean, movie theaters have been struggling for years, and they've been trying to figure out their business model, and their response has been to raise ticket prices and then charge you out the wazoo for any concessions. But they're going to have to really evaluate how they do things, because entertainment at home has changed to the point where you don't have to go to a theater to get a theater experience anymore. I mean,
oh God, no.
I mean, there are certain movies.
No, God, I mean, we talked about it before. It is very easily, and I mean, save your money for a year of the movies you go see. You could build a theater system in your house.
Exactly. Perfect, sound system. Get you one of those beautiful curved. It's curved. Look at it. Get one of those curved screens, 4K, and it's probably almost better than the experience you'd have there. And you're going to be paying a whole lot less for popcorn. I'll tell you that. So they're going to have to evaluate.
Not in my house.
They're going to have to reevaluate the way that they do business, because the landscape is changing because of things like this. I mean, this is going to have a really big impact. That's going to have ripples not only in the movie theater, in the theme parks and comic books, but also in streaming services. Because one of the things that I didn't realize until I started really digging into this was that apparently Fox owned a large share of Hulu. So at the time,
majority.
Yes, that is a big point that a lot of people are glossing over. Disney now owns a majority share of Hulu.
Yeah, so at the time, Disney owned something around 20%. Fox owned 40%. Well, with this acquisition, now Disney suddenly owns 60% of Hulu. Oh, and by the way, Disney's launching a streaming service in 2019. So it really is going to be interesting to see what happens there, because you've got, now Disney owns Marvel, Fox, Star Wars, all these huge properties, and we've already started to list some of those things that go along with it. Now you've got the streaming distribution, not only on control of Hulu, but also your own as well. You're talking about prices changing for streaming, and then how they do streaming might look different as well. We have no idea yet the ripples that this is going to have, just when it finally rolls out and comes to full fruition. But it's got shockwaves that people didn't even really realize, I think.
Yeah, and sorry, go ahead, Matt.
Well, I was gonna touch on that whole Hulu thing. The article I found said that Disney now owns, with this deal, only 30% stake, but they are a major majority.
Only 30.
Only
but
30.
It's still the majority. Okay.
But do you know who the other 2 partners in Hulu is?
I think one's Comcast, isn't it?
Comcast and Time Warner, the 2 people that they would most hurt in streaming service. So for them to, there's talk that they probably won't be able to buy them out. I think they could, but
yeah. Let's be honest. At this point, I don't think there's anybody on the planet Earth that Disney couldn't buy out. Maybe short of
two big movie titles that they take home for a 3-month span of just cash rolling in truckloads, and they're rolling up to the table going, do you want out or not? And the other part of it is talk about the ripples. From what I read, there was a conference call that went with this deal or something like that a lot of people were a part of, and on the conference call, they're not going to use Hulu as their vehicle to do their Disney streaming. They're still going to do their own service. Mm-hmm. And then they're going to have Hulu as more of an adult programming. And then they're going to have, there's another service they're putting out. And then they're going to have, this is whatever this conference call is. I'll have to dig in to see what this actually was. They're going to have attachment packages of some sort. So if you want more of this kind of Disney entertainment or more of that kind of entertainment, you attach it to it. So you'd have a base price, and then you go up from there. And it's what everybody's kind of doing, is this a la carte crap. Yeah. So
Here's what I found. This is in a Fortune article. It's saying with acquisition of 21st Century Fox, Disney will bump its ownership stake of Hulu to 60%. While Disney wins its collective revenue from both companies, it's more cost effective to have a single. And then Comcast owns 30 of Hulu.
Okay.
So 60-30, and the other
Time
10
Warner
must be
sold
Time
out
Warner or something. Maybe
at this time. Yeah, maybe they're gone. But still, Comcast is. I don't know. I don't know why they would even be in it at this point, because you're not doing anything. If they own major majority, I'm sure they make quite a bit of decisions, and really they're not worried about you anymore. Not that they ever were. So.
Like you ask why Comcast would still be in it at this point. I think they're in it because if they're out of it, that would give Disney that much bigger of a foothold that they know they can never climb themselves out of. And it's like, I guess it's news that Hulu isn't going to be Disney's online streaming platform, but at the same time, I don't think that should be too big of a surprise, because even before we started hearing rumblings of the possible merger that we're now talking about, we were talking about how Disney was preparing to do their own streaming service. And it's interesting. I've heard some stories come out since this merger came out that not too long ago, there was talks that Disney might be interested in buying the WWE from the McMahon family. And part of the reason that they were interested in it is because of the WWE network, because they were interested in launching their own streaming service very similar to the network. At this point in the game, everybody kind of has figured out how to do your own quote unquote network. So of course, Vince McMahon could have something horrible happen and they have to sell the WWE for 20 cents on the dollar. And of course, Mickey would come swooping in. But at the same time, it's like I don't think it's that big of a surprise that Hulu is going to continue to operate aside from whatever Disney's getting ready to launch, because Hulu still, it's not Netflix when it comes to, name recognition, when it comes to streaming, but Hulu is still kind of a big player in that game. So, I think it would be a bad business decision if Disney acquired a majority of stakes in Hulu and said, all right, we're gigging.
This is Disney. Right. So, and I'll tell you my take on this, because I think this is another angle. And this is also probably going to address some of those concerns that we've heard from people as they've thought about what are the impacts of this acquisition to some of my treasured franchises. So Disney already has a history of acquiring other, production companies, other brands, and not making that brand go away, releasing things underneath that brand's name that don't necessarily seem very Disney. And I think that you could look at, an example that I would give is first of all, Star Wars, for example. Star Wars feels Disney, but at the same time, I would say you don't see Disney branded all over that thing like people thought. Initially we thought, okay, before we get the opening crawl, we're going to have Cinderella's castle. But we don't get that. That's not happening. They do Lucasfilm, and then it's a Star Wars movie. And then with the Marvel movies, Disney's not plastered all over that stuff. So I think that they've already shown, and then they have other distribution companies as well for films that people probably don't realize that they own. Another thing I would say is, people, I already mentioned it and I want to get back to it, the concerns over what happens to movies like Logan and Deadpool now that they roll up under the Disney umbrella. Well, it was addressed right after the announcement of the acquisition. On a conference call, Bob Iger actually said, Deadpool clearly has been and will be Marvel branded, but we think there might be an opportunity for a Marvel R brand for something like Deadpool. As long as we let audiences know what's coming, we think we can manage that fine. That's exactly right. Just because it's under the Disney brand, Disney is the parent company, that doesn't mean that these things can that they can't exist off on their own as some adult brand. Marvel's done it for years with the Marvel Max brand, where it's
I was just about to say the Max brand.
Yeah, it's not kid friendly, and Disney has shown that they don't mind slapping another name on it as long as it sets the right expectations for people. They are totally fine releasing something that's vulgar and dirty and gory. That's totally fine. It's not going to have Cinderella's castle on it, and it's not going to have kids lining up at the. Although Deadpool, for some People,
Yeah,
Deadpool brings in kids. But
I told the story going to opening night. There was a 4-year-old decked out in head to toe, Deadpool, everything. Their parents like, what is going on here? Why do I feel like I have to be the responsible one? This
Deadpool really is a family film. But what I was going to say, I'm going to circle back now to the Hulu thing. Disney would keep Hulu active because they can put things on that streaming service because it's called Hulu that people wouldn't automatically associate with Disney. So it can be a little different. It doesn't have to be a Mickey Mouse cartoon. You know, it doesn't have to be DuckTales. Yeah, you're going to get DuckTales on the Disney streaming service. You'll probably also get like something like Rebels on the Disney streaming service, stuff like that. Over on Hulu, Disney could go ahead and you know, release things that are like Legion, for example.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and you know, I'm sure that falls in the X-Men category. I'm not even sure he was on FX, so you know, I guess they did acquire FX,
yeah,
so he
part
becomes this. Yeah, and I mean that show was bonkers crazy, and it's very adult. So one of the things that we're talking about them having all their properties on their streaming service, and I think we mentioned this when we talked about this deal the first time, was them pulling it all from Netflix. Netflix already knows this is going to happen because one of the articles I read about them is I think their hope by 2020 is to be 80% original content. Wow. So they already know this licensing deal that they've started with is not going to suffice them or keep them afloat. So they're going to try to develop their own content and their own push for things. And in that category, Hulu, even though they own Hulu, it sounds like to me that they're going to let Hulu produce their own content too. So there's nothing there that's going to stop those kinds of original things coming out and those more kind of adult themes being on Hulu if you enjoy some of the series that are already on there. It's just like you said, I see more of the light here that they're going to allow it because why would they turn the money away? Why would they walk away from it?
Exactly.
So,
well, and I mean, like, everybody is kind of freaked out about Deadpool and, I guess to a lesser extent Logan because they are rated R and, everybody's afraid Disney's going to, Disney-fy them or whatever. Disney is, so far with Marvel, has proven they've been smart enough to, stay out of the way of Marvel and let their investment make them money. But at the same time, Disney releasing, very adult movies isn't anything new. I mean, back in the 90s, Miramax in 1993, when they put out Pulp Fiction, guess what? Miramax was part of Walt Disney. So, yeah, exactly. I mean, Disney has been cranking out very adult movies for a while, but they don't throw Cinderella's Castle on the front of it. So, like Iger said, if audiences know what they're getting into and they go into it, we have no problem.
Yeah, we can make it work.
They like money.
Yeah, and there's always going to be a demand for that. I mean, I think that the reaction, I think personally, for filmmakers, the reaction to Logan and Deadpool was really eye-opening because here's a little secret. All of those kids back 20 years ago that were collecting all of these comic books in the comic book stores are all 30-year-old, 40-year-old adults now.
Mm-hmm. Giant man babies with disposable income.
Exactly. And they want these like brutal rated R, give me the Deadpool that I want to see. And obviously it demonstrated these movies made a ton of money. They got great reviews. Disney is not going to turn a blind eye to that, guys. It's not going to happen.
Yeah, it's not going to be a PG-13 river of shame. Yeah. It's going to be, they understand who their audience is. Trust me, this plays for Disney to buy Fox means they have some idea of the audience they're pitching stuff to. They're not dumb. Yeah. You may not like who they pair. You may not like some of the stuff they do. You may not even like the merchandising they do with your character, but they're probably going to give you the movie you want or the video game or, the comic book. They're not stupid.
Yeah. I mean, like, I was going to say Fantastic Four and X-Men fans are over here waving at you, but you have to remember, that was all Fox Studio. So far with the Marvel Cinematic Universe, they've hit pretty much if not every one of them out of the park. They've made contact with every single film, at least to stand up double with their absolute. I mean, they made Ant-Man and Doctor Strange work for.
Oh my God! Thank you for mentioning Ant-Man because that gives me a second to mention the Ant-Man and the Wasp teaser trailer, which is freaking amazing. I am
a transition machine,
Sorry.
That whole do you know there are Ant-Man haters? Like there are people who did
How
not
could
like
you
that
hate
movie.
Ant-Man?
there are people who hate that movie. They think it was a flop. They think it was a misstep, and they just don't care for it.
Well,
and I did not
everybody's
know this
entitled to their own
community
opinion,
existed.
No matter how
And
long
they
they're-
are, but I did not know they were real people.
I mean, like we talked about before we started recording, there's going to be some people that are going to yell at sunshine and puppy dogs. There's going to be some people that are just predisposed to be angry. So,
I'm looking at one person in particular, but anyway.
how I turned my camera off. You can't see me.
But yeah, the whole Ant-Man and Wasp thing, and then we had the whole controversy. If I have to see one more stupid article over somebody who is looking for something to be wrong with that costume, I get it. We see what you see. It's fine. Whatever. They'll digitally fix it if it becomes a freaking problem.
Well,
But at the same time, come on.
you would think that they could digitally fix it if it's a problem, but the Justice League and Henry
Well, I
Cavill
was going to say, if we
mustache
can
says
remove a
what's up.
mustache from a man from the time
Can
movie,
we?
I'm pretty sure. Look. We're not dealing with DC money. We're dealing with Disney Marvel money. Okay?
You could go
we-
Scrooge McDuck, which is appropriate
As-
because it's Disney.
To kind of use Arby's phrase, we have the editors.
Dang it! Now I'm thinking Arby's.
Oh,
I'm always thinking Arby's. Even when they're closed, I'm at their door.
That man.
well,
It's
I
not big.
I think I think we've shown a lot of enthusiasm for a lot of the potential. I saw this article. I wanted to mention this before.
Let's say I feel like we need to maybe touch on some doom and gloom from our own minds.
Well, I saw this particular article that just it basically was kind of like saying, all right, everybody kind of pump the brakes a little bit because, of course, now we're all clamoring for, please, is there any way we can maybe do a reshoot or two and get some X-Men in the Infinity Wars? Why not?
Wolverine's totally showing up at the end of 2. I've been saying this for as long as I can remember being on this podcast. Wolverine is so showing up at the end of Infinity Wars Part 2 to save the day.
I'd rather they not.
He might. There might be something post credit, but I saw this article on Collider and I wanted to mention it. Kevin Feige came out and basically made a statement. It was in an interview setting, so it wasn't like he had a press conference about it, but trying to, I guess, level set expectations of the fans in regard to when we might see some of the X-Men movies, Fantastic Four, things like that under the new Marvel universe, under the Disney umbrella. And if you kind of read the headline and you read the article, it gave you the impression that he was saying it's going to be a while, guys. We're not rushing to do this. Don't get your hopes up. We've already got a full slate of movies coming out through 2019. We're busy with that. All this. Okay, everything he said though, if you really dig into it, was totally logical because essentially he's saying everything that's in production is already set in motion. And this deal isn't going to be done for another 12 to 18 months anyway, so we can't just start doing something with properties that we don't officially have access to yet. So everything he said is logical. It's not like he's trying to tell us that it's not going to happen. It's really just like, you won't see it tomorrow. But we are going to get some X-Men crossover stuff. We are going to get X-Men over in the new MCU, and it's definitely going to happen. But I think what we're going to see is it's going to really start to pick up after this current arc wraps up, after the Infinity Wars Part 2.
Yeah, that's probably a safe bet because I've seen a lot of people speculate that that's going to be when the MCU kind of reboots itself because a lot of the big name actors like like Robert Downey Jr., Chris Evans, Mark Buffalo. I know his name is Ruffalo, but I call him Buffalo. All their contracts are coming up. So what better opportunity to just completely start fresh? And, oh, by the way, we moved into this new neighborhood and our next door neighbors are the Fantastic Four and the X-Men.
Yeah. The only guy we're going to be missing, guys, still Spider-Man. Hanging out by himself over there with Sony.
And
It's
Venom.
Disney's going to buy
Venom.
Sony
You're
before
right,
it's all
Venom.
said and done.
I actually, the Venn diagram did cover the Sony and what they own. And I mean, there's a lot of villains on that side that, is still untouchable at this mark. But I got 2 words for you if you want a big
Suck it.
crossover, and it doesn't have to be
Yeah, suck
Infinity
it.
Wars. No, it's Secret Wars.
Oh.
The Secret Wars were awesome comics. And I'm just saying, if they want a reboot, that's the place to do it.
Honestly,
don't-
Secret Wars would feel like that would be their next phase's Infinity Wars.
Sure, and that's what I'm saying. That's what we build to. And there's a lot of things they're going to have to hash out, I think, with the X-Men alone, because you've got 2 sets of X-Men. You know, you've got First Class X-Men, and then you've got what they started out with. And I mean, for all of Fox's follies, they did have some wins. The first X-Men and Days of Future Past are probably the best 2
I love
X-Men
Days of
films
Future
there.
Past, yeah. Mm-hmm.
What,
Yeah,
no love for
so-
X-Men too? I mean,
I like
Nightcrawler.
X-Men
Yeah.
too, but it falls under those 2 specifically. You know, it would probably be the first X-Men, and then Future Past, then X2, and then the rest of the rabble. And Logan, to me, doesn't go in that category because it sits out by itself.
Yeah, Logan's in a class of its own. It's
Yeah.
an actual honest-to-God good movie.
I can't put Logan in that lineup. I can't.
I think by the
So-
time that we actually get to start playing in the X-Men universe, that they're probably I doubt they acknowledge any of that stuff even existed. It'll almost be like what they did with Star Wars when Lucasfilm came under the Disney umbrella and they said, "All right, this stuff is legend, this stuff is canon." And they won't really do that because in the comic book universe, like all this stuff can exist because of parallel dimensions and things like that. But
Or the Scarlet Witch will just
But they
whisper,
didn't-
"We can now have mutants."
yeah.
And well, they didn't discount the prequels exactly yet.
No, and they
Like, they
won't.
have thrown them in the trash. So I don't think that they're going to take these movies and throw them in the trash.
But comic book movies are somewhat different in that they don't have to really line up.
No, you're correct.
Yeah.
And we did wipe away. I think 2 got wiped away with Futures Past, right?
No, 3 got completely
obliterated.
like
Thank Jesus for
retconned.
that. That's garbage.
It got
I'm sorry
retconned.
for the
It's
people
in
who
ret-
got caught up in the collateral damage of that movie. But
I'm the Juggernaut, bitch. You know
Oh,
that one meme
God,
from the
please.
internet? Yeah.
help me.
God, that movie sucked.
And I mean, these were good years we had with P. Stew and freaking Ian McKellen. Is it Ian McKellen?
No, it's not at all. It's
Ian-
Ian McKellen.
It doesn't matter. P.
Old
Stew's
Max.
best friend. So, we pissed away some good years with those guys in the
And oh, by the way,
X-Men
Hugh
franchise.
Yeah, Hugh Jackman.
Oh, by the way, Hugh Jackman.
Hugh, is that how you say his name? I'm just kidding. Anyway, yeah, Hugh Jackman, I mean, his years lost, his roid rage lost because he was jacked in that one too.
You be nice to Hugh Jackman. He is.
I love Hugh Jackman. He is a national treasure in Australia.
In Australia.
Yeah. I didn't say national treasure. He's just a treasure.
In Australia.
Nick
I'm
Cage
sure
is gonna be
Right,
looking
he can
for
sing,
him
he
soon.
can dance, he can act.
So-
I want to mention a couple of things that we haven't brought up that are part of this, that they're going to be wrapped up in this combination world. We haven't talked about Bob's Burgers.
Yes, and by
There
the
is
way,
a lot to
yeah,
talk about.
they've already announced a Bob's Burgers movie is coming down the pike, so you now have to wonder, is that going to move forward? And I don't want to step on your point you're trying to make, Jay. So go ahead before I.
But
do
well,
step
I
on
was
it.
going to say The Simpsons as well.
Okay, yes, that's where I was going to go next because no, please finish your thought before I go on my big yellow people four-finger having rant.
But before we get into that, here's a couple of things that haven't really come to my mind, but I just wonder what the implications of this will be. Buffy the Vampire Slayer and
Say it.
Firefly.
Yes, there it is. All the feels. Oh.
Wouldn't it be amazing if somehow in this new universe they're creating for the new Star Wars trilogy, we just happen to run into a Firefly class ship at some point?
Hey, you know what? I don't know if, unfortunately, as much as I love the original show, the only show we have of Firefly right now, I'm afraid that cast has kind of aged itself out of coming back. But I mean, that universe is so perfect to tell stories.
Yeah, it is. I'd love to see
Disney,
something
do
done
it.
with it. Yeah.
If you were gonna put it in a franchise, the perfect franchise is Guardians, because Guardians
Yeah,
is such a
you're right.
conglomeration of craziness. For them to be sitting on a launch pad somewhere parked and you can see them in the distance,
Yeah.
but not.
I just want to nod. I want to nod, and then maybe
That's what I'm saying. It sounds like that's what you were opting for, is just a tip of the hat. With Firefly in the background. We
Because-
own
Tip of the Jane hat.
Yeah, because
Yeah,
then we
exactly.
get to imagine what's going on with them and know that they're still existing somewhere. That would be nice.
You can't stop the signal, Mel.
Right. So, but let's get into it because, Landon, I think we're kind of leading to one of the things that you did as part of the prep for this show was you really kind of reached out to the general population and you said, how are you feeling about this news? What are your thoughts? What are you excited about? What do you fear? I know one of the things that came up was The Simpsons, so I kind of feel like we can move into the conversation about what kind of feedback you got on this.
Yeah, that sounds good. Like you mentioned in the lead up to this, I did a little crowdsourcing on my personal Facebook, on Twitter, twitter.com/Landoz, LANDOZ. And I also did a little bit of crowdsourcing in a group of another podcast I listen to. So shout out to the Laser Time community. Be sure to support them at patreon.com/lasertime, as well as patreon.com/Talking Simpsons. I'm plugging podcasts in my own podcast. What the hell is going on? But I reached out to a lot of people, and without fail, all the feedback I got was negative. And one of the things that was brought to my attention and really made me kind of think that, like, they're making a good point in this. Like, do you remember a few years back when there were the rumors that, it looks like the Simpsons voice actors can't come to a deal on a new contract, so it looks like this is going to be the final season of The Simpsons. And then at the 11th hour, they were able to come to some sort of agreement, and all the cast members get signed up for at that time, some of the most expensive contracts in television history. And that process has been repeated a few times. So and I feel like part of the reason why they were able to come to agreements at the 11th hour is because Fox, even though at this point in The Simpsons' lives, it kind of feels like everybody has spent more time talking about how, quote, The Simpsons used to be good, as opposed to the time when The Simpsons were, quote unquote, good. I understand that, but at the same time, I still think Fox holds the Simpson property in high regard. And they also realize, like, Fox, up until they sold to Disney, Fox was partially the house that Bart Simpson built. Whether, like, George H.W. Bush was saying we need less Bart Simpsons and more Waltons. I mean, like, The Simpsons has been a part of the American pop culture vernacular since the 80s. And I mean, Fox wouldn't be around if it wasn't for The Simpsons. So what if contract negotiations come up again and the new owner isn't Fox? The new owner isn't the people that holds this franchise in high revere and high regard, that says, yeah, okay, these might be expensive, but we're going to get our money back in the long run. What's not to say Disney's like, you guys have had a good run and you'll always be available on our streaming services and on DVDs, but maybe it's time for Bart, Homer, Marge, Lisa, and Maggie to ride off into the sunset. What's not to say that's not going to happen? And then in the most Disney move, and I got to give it to somebody in the Laser Time community, your name's escaping me, so if
Aaron.
it's you, feel...
His name is Aaron.
Yeah. His name is what?
His name was Robert Paulson. Oh, I mean...
His name is Robert Paulson, and hey, everybody in the Laser Time community does have bitch tits. No, that's me.
No. No, I don't want to... I'm not giving his last name, but it was Aaron.
Okay. Aaron made a great point. It's like, wouldn't this be the most Disney move for them to, like, cancel The Simpsons, and 5 years later, when nostalgia has started to drum up and people are like, yeah, the new episode of The Simpsons weren't as good as the old Simpsons, but new Simpsons is better than no Simpsons. So wouldn't it be the most Disney move for them to announce 5 years after they shut it down, they're going to bring back The Simpsons in a new revision or a new reboot, and they're going to get an all-new cast, a la DuckTales that happened, last year? That feels like a move Disney would do. And that's just The Simpsons, a franchise that has built the clout to be able to, demand the money that your Harry Shears and your Nancy Cartwrights and those people demand. But I love Bob's Burgers. I think Bob's Burgers is the funniest thing on Fox. Bob's Burgers does not have the clout of The Simpsons or Family Guy or American Dad or, I was going to say The Cleveland Show, but hell, I have more clout than that.
Yeah, that's a good one.
But I mean, like, that is a lot of the uncertainty that I saw in this in some of the responses I got. Nathaniel says that it's bad, that it's too much is being consolidated into one company, and he thinks it's bad for workers and it's bad for the creators. And I don't disagree with Nathaniel. I think that's a really good point. Jack says it's mostly bad, and as a great 21st century philosopher once said, no one man should have all that power. The clock's ticking. I just count the hours. That of course is the great Kanye West.
One of the great modern philosophers, I have to say it.
Yeah. Danny says it's almost entirely bad. He says just sell them back the Fantastic Four and be done with it. I mean, I really feel like a lot of the positives that we're getting are from the comic book movie fans, because we are going to be getting these crossovers that we thought were just not possible. But I do think some of these guys do have a good point, and you even made reference to it. They're going to be, ripples in the pond that we don't even consider because of this move. And like, there are some people that just straight up do not like this idea. Like Aaron, he says he's uncomfortable how many people are okay with this move just because they, want to spend money on movies and buy merchandise and spend money and blah, blah, blah. And it's like, I'm not going to attack people for how they want to spend their time and their money and what they want to do. But I mean, yeah, a lot of people are okay with this. I mean, we've talked mostly in this podcast about how it's like, yeah, there are some aspects that's kind of like, yeah, this could kind of suck ass, but for the most part, we've been like,
overall, I give I'm on the positive
optimistic.
side of it. Yeah, I'm optimistic.
They own the Warble also.
There you go.
They do.
Yeah, because it's a Fox property, so now they own kind of a Star Trek-ish show.
Yeah.
Well, I guess we can say goodbye to Star Trek ever being owned by Disney, since they have a Star Trek knockoff that they own at this point.
You'd have to buy it from well, yes and no, in the sense, I mean, they'd have to buy it from two different places, It's kind of like buying two pieces of a puzzle at two different stores.
I have a dream that someday Disney will acquire the sole and singular rights to Star Trek, and then they'll start developing attractions in the parks, and then Matt and I will get to go to Disney World together, hand in hand, and it'll be a beautiful day.
With a
Padawan
basket
and
between
red
us and a dog.
Walking down Main Street.
That's right.
That's right.
I had some more comments that I thought were fun. Shay decided to have fun with the possibilities of some mashups. Stop me when I say a movie you would not pay money for. Muppets Take Springfield.
I want to see it.
Yeah, that's what I thought. We would all see that. 21 Main Street, USA.
Yep.
Yes.
Jedi of the Apes. That one I'm kind of iffy on. But here comes the killer.
I would see it if they made the apes Jedis and did the story from an ape perspective.
Yeah, honestly, I would watch that, especially if they kind of, use the previous Apes trilogy, which, by the way, is now a Disney property.
Yeah, Planet of the Apes. We didn't mention it.
Oh, yeah. Luke Banana Walker.
No. But here's the kicker. Stitch versus Predator.
Yeah, they own Predator now.
Yeah, Predator and Alien.
You were the first to say
the Alien Xenomorph Queen is now a Disney princess, just like
now a Disney princess. So get ready for that set.
Logan also had a really good point. I like this. 10 years from now, I think we're going to look back on this deal and view it as a major turning point in history, not only for pop culture, but also global economics. I strongly believe that once Disney launches their online streaming services, which they already established characters with ABC, ESPN, and this massive addition to their content library, there will be extensive effects on all forms of communication and entertainment. But on a lighter note, I am looking forward to seeing Deadpool added to the MCU and finally seeing the Fantastic Four shown the attention and respect they deserve. I can't disagree with anything he said. I think right now we're looking at it from a pop culture aspect, but I do think he makes a great point. There are going to be ramifications in the communication field coming from this.
Go ahead.
Say one of the things I hope, and we're talking about all the things they can do, but there are some things that Fox had going that I kind of hope stay in the pipe or at least get released. One of those being is that New Mutant movie that we saw that looked like a cross between, kind of an X-Men horror story, and I thought it looked great. Like, that's something new.
Yep.
I want to see that one come out. Of course, Deadpool 2. It doesn't sound like anybody's stopping that train.
Oh, God, no.
But one of the ones that's slated, and I looked it up just to make sure of this, it's slated for November 2nd of this year, is The Dark Phoenix. It's still in the books. It's still coming out, and they're going forward after Apocalypse. I kind of want to see what they're going to do with it.
Well, I do think you're definitely going to get that option because, I mean, echoing what Jay said about, Feige saying, like, yeah, you might want Wolverine to show up at the end of Infinity Wars 2. It's just not logistically possible because everything we've already set up to go was already in motion. So, I mean, I think we're going to get that movie regardless of however this deal shakes out. And one more comment, and then I swear I'll shut up about it. Corinne says, I think it's a really unfortunate step that has ramifications, kind of echoing what Logan said, beyond just everyone's favorite characters in a film together. It's never a good thing when only one entity controls too much of a single market. Goodbye competition. I don't think anybody's wrong here.
Yeah,
No.
I would agree.
Everybody puts a good point. Everybody has a good stance. It's all about intention. What are you trying to do? Are you trying to gobble up for entertainment purposes and to put out this spectacular product with a completeness of it? Or are you just gobbling up to turn out trash and can and film us to death with everything you can just throw at us?
I think that's a fair question, which I don't think any of us know the answer to now. Because I mean, like,
God doesn't know.
Yeah, he doesn't know at this point. Jay, you mentioned it towards the top of this. Like, National Geographic is now a Disney property. Like, if Disney doesn't care about National Geographic, you would think that they're not going to put the money into National Geographic, and National Geographic will go away.
I don't think it will, and I'll tell you why. They need some additional property and support for Animal Kingdom. So
Okay, that's a great point.
Yeah,
And
going
they
back
did a
to
lot
theme
of-
parks.
Didn't they do a lot of early films of like animals and things in the wild? And
Mhm.
I swear I
Yeah,
saw
they
that on
used to.
Disney when I was a kid
Well,
constantly.
What was it called?
Okay.
Was it Wild Kingdom? I don't
Was
know
it?
if
Was that the
Disney.
name of it?
But
I don't
Disney
know.
did
Wild
do like
Kingdom,
some nature stuff.
Yeah, I knew like they had like a Saturday morning show that would come on or whatever. Okay, so they'll hang on to National Geographic, but what's not to say like the Mick on Fox, which is let's assume that makes it over.
That was
to
already
Disney.
canceled, I think.
Okay, well you're just shooting down all of my examples.
sorry.
But, like
That was awful,
like-
and it was put out of its misery.
what's not to say that there is a show that some people do like, but it doesn't ring the cash register that Disney wants. What's not to say? Be like, yeah, a handful of people like this, but it doesn't really move our bottom line. So bye.
Well, here's a conflict of interest. Gotham.
That would
You know,
would
just-
require people being interested in Gotham.
Yeah, no one's interested, but they keep making it.
Zing.
Lucifer, New Girl, Brooklyn Nine-Nine. I mean, there's a lot of stuff that they own that does do well. The revamp of X-Files, they own that, I
This
guess.
is
now.
us. They now own Modern Family. they
Yeah,
now
this is Modern Family. This is us. Hell's Kitchen. I mean, there's stuff that they own. It's just they own Ghosted now. Maybe they can fix it
on purpose.
on purpose. Sleepy Hollow, which I do think has already been canceled, so that's not a big one. I guess they own the rights to 24. And this is just quickly scanning through things. They own Futurama now. They can
They
bring
do.
that one
Yeah.
back.
I mean, we talked about The Simpsons. They own Matt Groening's other animated force, and there's already been rumors that that Futurama could possibly be coming back in some form. So who knows what this deal is going to impact those rumors.
Yeah, so I mean, TV, you could see your TV take a hit, depending on what they care for and what they don't care for. But stuff like, I don't see Glee going away. I
I
don't
thought
see
Glee-
Oh,
So
I
You
thought
Think
Glee
You Can
was done.
Dance going away, or American Idol, or Last Man on Earth, I guess, is one of their properties. They own some stuff now that
They
they've
do own
acquired
some
that
stuff. That's true.
They own some stuff.
They got a couple things.
They got a trunk with some stuff in it.
They got that one mouse guy, and then the duck with no pants. What's his name?
The guy that has an identity crisis has a dog that owns a dog.
Here's maybe something that people might not want to hear, but it's just fact. Not everything has to last forever, and sometimes a series only lasts for like a limited amount of time, and then it goes away, and we're done with it. And we can appreciate the fact that it existed and it created good content, and that will always be there. And the fact that it's gone isn't necessarily any kind of comment on the piece of art that it was at the time. And things have a life cycle. So if they're not popular, they can go away, and that's okay. It doesn't mean you liking it is some kind of comment on your personality. So I don't know.
Well, I mean, I do agree with you, but you also have to remember what age of entertainment we live in. We live in an age where nostalgia is pretty much the thing that moves the needle when it comes to entertainment. So, I mean, like, I feel like right now we're of a mindset in entertainment where it's like we have to hold on to these properties from a producer standpoint because A, we know it's going to make money, and then from the consumer standpoint because we know this is what we like. And new things can be scary sometimes.
Yeah, but then you also get people. One of the arguments you hear all the time, particularly about movies, is like, do we not have any new ideas? How come everything has to be a reboot or a sequel or something I've already seen? Okay, why can people say that like in a vacuum? But then when it comes to things like this, these kinds of conversations, people are like, wait, you're going to take the Mick away from me? But I love that show. Give me a break.
By the way, this is the most the Mick has ever been talked about.
Ever been said across an airwave ever. But
well, I'll never say it again.
My only thing about cancelizations, and Fox is notorious for it, is they just end the series. They don't give closure. They don't give nothing. It's like, well, I'll see you tomorrow, Frank. You never see Frank again. You don't even know who Frank is because he never comes back in your life. When he was there on Tuesdays to comfort you and make you feel special about your terrible job, never again. You'll never see him again. You don't know where he went. No closure. So hopefully Disney knows what closure is. Because if they start shutting these down, maybe the Mick has a drinking problem and falls completely into an abyssal pit and ends up in jail, and that's closure for you. I've never seen that show. I don't know what he's about.
Well, the Mick's a her first.
It is a her.
All right, she falls into the drunkenness and jail.
I'm really sorry I got us on this Mick kick.
Oh, it is
Welcome
a her.
to the Mick Podcast.
Yeah.
Wow, their cover art for their series is not doing them any favors either. So I don't know. I don't really. A TV show's a TV show in a way, and it's like if it doesn't work, it doesn't work. And I mean, TV right now I think is the most is the biggest pitch right now for people. Because I mean, I think I've seen more things come out of the woodwork as a show on TV than I ever have in movies here lately within the last 5 years. With that kind of money presented to some of these, maybe Gotham will get better. Maybe they'll have enough money to put somebody in a cowl and a cape in the background, or
I kind of feel like that boat's already sailed on Gotham. But I mean, you do make a good point. We do live in an era where like big Hollywood stars are okay doing, these miniseries on TV or, going to AMC for the next Breaking Bad or Walking Dead, because TV is where it seems like people are still able to take chances. And, with the exception of, Fox canceling Firefly or whatever, canceling Andy Richter Controls the Universe or Saves the Universe by the third episode. Generally, you can get your run out there.
Yeah. And I mean, to echo or to kind of reaffirm or agree with what Justin said, big series that we all watch, is Stranger Things. You only got 2 more seasons of it.
Yeah.
I mean, they said 4 is it.
Yeah.
So,
It's
and
not
I'm
gonna go
fine
on
with
forever.
it. Like in my mind, I'm like, okay, 4. This book ends in 4 seasons.
And I know people are going to be out there saying, you're always pining for more Firefly. I hear you saying that kind of stuff all the time. Why are you telling me I should get
It
over
ended
it?
on you. You didn't get your closure.
Because Firefly ended before its time and it was popular. And Fox is
It didn't-
notorious for
yeah.
killing things that are good.
Yeah, I want to see if were they in control of that one I loved. Hold on, I might go on a rant for 3 seconds here.
Oh God, do we have time for a
You
rant?
do. Okay, he's got 3 seconds.
Hold on, I got to find out who.
While he's looking at that, I will say I'm a leaf on the wind. Watch me soar. By the way, that reminds me, my Jane hat got destroyed this week. Complete non sequitur. I had a Jane hat made by a friend knitted to my head. You know who destroyed it?
The dog.
My dog,
Zoe.
So Zoe killed Jane's hat.
She wanted to be a bad guy.
It's not Fox's fault.
Ain't we though?
It was already Disney's fault. So
Oh, okay.
Well, great. Disney
Good.
owns all of our childhood, and we're like 4 weeks away from them owning all of our asses too. So.
well, they had a show called Forever, which I thought was highly interesting. Evidently, I was the only one watching it.
Was it just John Stamos singing that song over and over in every episode?
How did you know?
I get canceled.
John Stamos. It's Jesse.
Uncle Jesse.
Uncle Jesse. Sorry, I forgot his dignified British title.
You must address him appropriately.
Appropriately. I've been watching the Crown with my wife, and wow, guys, if you don't know anything about how the Brits work, you definitely need to get on that show and see how that world works.
Do they show
But,
how the queen gets her army of corgis? Because that's what I'm really interested in when it
They
comes
are
to
like-
family.
Well, here's the thing. It's funny you bring that up because every time they show those daggum dogs, there's more of them.
Well, yeah, she has an army of corgis.
It's like it started out and she had one. And as time was going on, like at one point she's like, "Oh, let me get them out of here," and she named them, I don't know, bacon, spinach, and turnips. I don't know what their name is.
Those
But
are very British names. That sounds
They
right.
are, except she's bacon, turnips, and spinach. Please exit. So she runs these dogs out of the room, and there's like 3 of them. And I'm like, the next scene, if I see 4, something's happening. You don't need to leave those dogs in a room by themselves anymore.
They're like
You know,
gremlins. If you get them wet or if you feed them after midnight,
Something's
they
happening.
multiply.
Exactly, something's happening. That they are dropping water on them. I don't know what's happening, but yeah. So
How the hell did we get on this?
I
talk?
have no idea. I was talking about forever. It was a
Dad,
good
save
subject.
us.
Yeah, save
Oh,
us.
thanks for listening. We'll see you next week.
Well, I guess before we do the whole lockout thing, this is the part where producer, I'm gonna need for you to give me a drop of a little Monday Night Football theme because I have the final of Super Bowl
yeah.
52. You
Here
guys.
we go.
What do we got?
All right. If you are of the gambling type, you are going to want to hammer the over this Sunday because we have a final score of 45-37.
Oh, thank
and your
God.
Super Bowl champions are the Philadelphia.
No!
Yes,
I
yes.
can't believe it.
Yes. Philly goes up 14 in the fourth quarter before Tom Brady
Well-
throws his 3rd touchdown of the day to cut the lead to 1 touchdown before Nick Foles engineers a 70-yard drive down the field to score a touchdown to put them back up by 2. And the Patriots get a garbage time touchdown to cut the lead to 7 points. And time runs out, and so does the time on the dynasty of the Patriots as your world champions are the Philadelphia Eagles and your Super Bowl MVP, second-year quarterback Ronald Darby with 5 tackles, 1 interception.
Okay,
So,
on that news, I think that the president should go ahead and order evacuation of the city of Philadelphia because that place is
Oh.
going to burn down.
They are going to burn the city of love, city of bread of love. That night.
No
you
place
see them greasing the
celebrates like
poles?
Philadelphia.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
That is hilarious. I had never heard of that, and there was rubbing Crisco on the pole so people wouldn't climb them. I'm like, that is terrible.
Well, the good news is the game is in Minnesota, and it's supposed to be like 4 degrees around kickoff. So if this score does hold up, drunken Philadelphia Eagle fans are going to go out into the night and they'll
Freeze
freeze
to
in
death.
place. So they won't do too much damage.
Well, all those that are watching from home are going to hit the streets, and it will be a disaster like we
Oh, yeah.
haven't seen.
Yeah, if you're in Philly, go ahead and barricade the door, get your bread and milk, act like it's going to be a snowpocalypse. Just prepare to not go outside for weeks.
Okay, so basically what you've done here is I essentially have to release this episode before Sunday. so
Sunday night's good night for football.
so considering that,
If you don't release it before Sunday, just let me know so I can come back and do a voiceover where it sounds like I nail it, including the score and the MVP.
but considering that,
Oh yeah, he could do your little drop. And their winner is the New England Patriots.
Mr. Black.
yeah, but we've already given me enough audio to edit, so I want to get out of here so I can make sure to release this thing in the next day or two. So, guys, do you want to plug it? Well, first of all, any closing thoughts before we do the plugs? Merger overall, I think all of us kind of feel generally optimistic, even understanding that there are some negative sides to this. But any final thoughts, Matt? What have you got?
I think it's good and it's bad. I can't say I totally disagree with people not wanting the conglomeration of one studio pushing things out, but at the same time, they're not doing a bad job as far as I can see, and they don't seem to have any malice in their heart for what they're putting out. So let's run with it and see what happens. It's not like you can stop it.
Yeah, at this point, I doubt we could do a Vol Twitter-esque thing and stop this merger.
Shout out to Vol Twitter.
Yeah, exactly. Go Vol Twitter. I'm going to echo what Matt said. I 100% understand why people are hesitant at this because, I mean, this is like you threw the stat out there. There were 6 studios putting out movies. Now there are 5. And what's not to say that this isn't going to become the norm where, one big conglomeration buys out a slightly smaller big conglomeration and they just become a bigger conglomeration. But at the same time, it's like, so far, Disney has been smart enough to get out of the way and let Marvel do its thing. They've been smart enough to get out of the way to let Star Wars do its thing. Though we're now starting to see like maybe some diminishing returns in the Star Wars and Marvel movies just because they have been annualized and some of the, oh my godness has worn off. But at the same time, I'm cautiously optimistic about this. And like, I'm kind of curious to see, like you talked about the ripples, and we talked about a lot in this nearly 2-hour podcast. I'm curious to see the ripples that we did not even think about, that did not even register on our radars. I'm interested to see those things and hope for the best.
Yeah, I think that's what you have to do.
And more Firefly.
I'm on the side of I understand market implications, and I get the hesitation and the hand wringing on that side, but from a purely fan perspective, I have to feel nothing but excited about this because, like you said, Disney showed that it's smart enough to get out of the way and let the company do what it needs to do. Marvel seems to be in good hands. Star Wars seems to be in good hands. I have no reason to think that they are going to just axe something as beloved as The Simpsons or Bob's Burgers. I just don't think that's going to happen. Could be wrong. I've been wrong once or twice. Let the record show. But
that is why we have the podcast.
Yeah, but I just don't see it. So I'm on the side of just like Landon, just like Matt. I'm cautiously optimistic here, and I think that what we've got a lot to be excited about in the next couple of years. So let's focus on that, and let the chips fall where they may. I guess. Que sera, sera.
Whatever will be, will be.
That's right.
Hey, that closed out an episode of the new Disney or a new Disney property, The Simpsons.
Oh, nice. Didn't even realize I'd done it, but I have. I'm a magician that way. I'm going to do plugs because you guys do them really long. Matt Weaver, he's got a podcast called Tracking Trek, and you can follow it on Tracking Trek Pod on Twitter, twitter.com/Tracking Trek Pod. Landon's got all kinds of stuff going on, but Got Talk is his Game of Thrones podcast. I know, I'm great at this.
Yeah, why the hell can't I do my plugs?
No, shut up. Shut up. Go to buttmuchchips.com and buttmuchchips, sit on your butt and munch. There, we did it all.
Wow.
At Landaz. What is yours? What's Matt's Twitter? At Supreme League?
At Matt Weaver 4.
I'm doing this log out under protest.
I don't care what you're doing. And my bottles are empty, so I say let's close this one out. We'll see you next week.
See you at Disney. Bring money.
In transmission.